if we could come in and get our seats. If you can sit closer to the front, that would be good so that the folks can start on the other tables. We're sort of on a tight schedule here as we go through the day. I'd like to welcome to the stage right now the next group for this session. It's the impact of National Coalition Certification Centers on Technical Education. Most of us know what NC3 is, and so this is going to be an exciting session for us to learn more about that. So, Roger?
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name is Roger Tadajewski. I'm the Executive Director of National Coalition of Certification Centers. And I'm going to do a couple quick introductions, and then I'll talk a little bit about an overview on NC3, and then we're going to jump right into some of the activities that we're doing. We'll hear from our corporate partner that's part of NC3, as well as one of our lead national instructors that helps drive the trainer session. So with that, Matt Janisin is an instructor at Gateway Technical College. And Matt, if you take just a couple minutes and tell them about what you do and where you're at.
I'm the NC3 coordinator at Gateway Technical College in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We were one of the first schools to begin partnering with SnapOn in 2007, which really led to the formation of NC3, which brought on a whole lot of other schools across the country, as well as other industry partners.
And then we have several corporate partners that are part of NC3, but one of the founding members of NC3 was a SnapOn Tool Corporation that came working with community colleges, but also helped form. And then within SnapOn, one of that founding member that helped drive it with not only within the corporation, but also help other corporations come on board is Mr. Fredrick Brookhouse. So Fredrick, if you'd say a few words.
Sure, thank you. Good morning. It's nice to see some also in the audience, a few of our leading certification schools. North Dakota State College of Science, I see out here. In Topeka, Washburn, thank you. And you heard a nice story from TCAT just a little while ago. Last year, TCAT implemented the NC3 certifications across all 27 campuses. It was quite a challenge, and very, very successful, by the way.
Being Gateway, you can just say it.
So this for industry, we started this conversation about how to partner with schools back in 2005. We've always been supportive of technical education. A lot of companies are, all right, across the country. But for industry and education to communicate, it's not so easy. We speak different languages. So we needed some help at SnapOn to learn how to talk to community colleges. And so the president of Gateway Technical College, he put a lot of effort into helping us change our relationship from a vendor-customer to an integrated partnership. And so this is the remarkable thing for us. And so as I've been able to go around the country talking to college leaders, in fact, prior to this, I didn't have an audience with college leaders. You're just another tool supplier, right? But we don't talk about tools. We talk about staff development, training instructors, the attracting better students, creating centers of excellence that are exciting and attract people, young people. This is a time when we have to compete to get people into technical education programs, and this is what drove the SnapOn mission. And so we're fortunate that other industry, our CEO agreed that if there's other industries that want to join, if we create the pathway of how to have those kind of integrated relationships with schools, our CEO said, if other companies want to join this, Fredrick, please provide mentorship for them as well, because we need more industries doing the same thing. So the Train Corporation joined the NC3 and has a board seat. Recently, the Starrett Corporation came on board. If you don't know Starrett, it's a precision measurement company, probably I call them the SnapOn of precision measurement. All these are high quality companies, all with the same problem, and how to integrate into education. We can't do it one school at a time. SnapOn doesn't have enough money, we don't have enough people. So this network is what industry is seeing as, how to create this national standard across the nation, and through the network, it makes it possible for us to scale. And so everybody who's in a position in an industry like that, in a position that I have, this is what we're looking for, is scalability. We can't deal with one school at a time. So that's how we got started, and that's our mission.
So let's just talk a little bit more about NC3. You've heard from SnapOn, from Fredrick, from a corporate standpoint. Kind of picture yourself from an education standpoint of a corporation of community colleges across the country. And, how do you, in the past, you could get things going, right? And you got some budgets and you got some things going at your programs and you got them in place, and they might be good for 5, 10, 15 years. You modify them a little bit and everything was okay. Well, then along came the 80s and MBAs and production and global markets and so forth, and all of a sudden, and to give you an example, we talked a little bit about automotive earlier today, and last night we were at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But back in the 1980s and into the 90s, it took automotive manufacturers around the world somewhere from 5 to 7 years to come up with a concept of a car and technology, develop it, put it into a manufacturing process, and then show up in a showrooms for the consumers to purchase it. And that was pretty much from the 50s, 60s, 70s. It was in that 5, 7, 8 year pipeline. Then when you got into the 90s with technology and efficiencies in production, and you heard the Cummins gentleman and the guy from Fiat Chrysler talk about the Toyota model. And Toyota started to change this with Kaizen and bringing processes in. And they shortened that timeline up from 7 years down to about 5 years. Okay. And then in early 2000s, this company called Hyundai and Kia from Korea came into the picture. And guess what? They cut that in half, to 2.5 years. Okay, so that's just on the production manufacturing side, but technology started to change as well too. You heard James Wolf from Fiat Chrysler talk about the 9-speed transmission that's in the vehicle today. If we go back just 3 years, in 2011, 2012, guess what? GM and BMW had the state-of-the-art transmission. It was called a 6-speed automatic transmission. 3 years later, it's archaic. It's being phased out of the system already. The reason I mention that as an example, and you can take the same example into, I'll say HVAC, but really what it is now called climate and energy controls systems. Okay, HVAC is still part of it, but the technology in energy, how we produce it, how we transmit it across the country, and then how we utilize it within buildings like this is changing, and the technology is changing. And so as community colleges, how do you keep up with that, right? How do you invest in those programs? How do you make those changes? Who's the lead person that can look at something and say, wow, this is being archaic, whether it's in curriculum, materials, facilities, equipment, instructional processes, and then how do you make those changes? It becomes very costly, very expensive. So part of what NC3, as you can see, is college presidents, the Brian Albrechts and the Lee Lamberts of the world, came together in late 2007 and began to discuss this. Just like Fredrick mentioned, from an industry standpoint, these challenges are coming in. And how could we come together and start to really work on this and shorten that timeline and those resources, and how could we share resources across the college network to shorten that timeline? Okay, are there unique things that need to be implemented, whether we have North Dakota represented here and what they're doing up there versus Washburn and Tennessee? Absolutely. But those areas that we can collaborate on and bring together multitudes from facility, curriculum, instructor development, okay? We have John Lee here that is in Tennessee. He knows Matt extremely well and communicates probably almost on a weekly basis. But in the last 3 years, you didn't know him 3 years ago, okay? And the same thing with Josh Thompson in Washburn Tech in Topeka, Kansas, communicates with our climate and energy control instructors across the country. And that could be on curriculum, that could be on testing, that could be on certifications, and so we shorten that timeline and make sure that where we don't need to be reinventing wheels, we don't. Okay, where we need to truly be investing in dollars, whether that is from industry or from education or collaboration, then we do, because it's not going to slow down. Okay, I'm sure if we ask James Wolfe today how much longer they're going to be making that 9-speed automatic transmission, he would say, well, we're working on it. But I think one clue is everybody said in 18 months, your job's going to change. So it kind of gives you a clue that internally, whether it's at Cummins or at Fiat Chrysler or General Motors or Train Corporation or so forth, these 18-month cycles are here to stay and will continue. And so for your students, for your instructors, for college presidents, deans, boards of trustees, all has to be a part of that process. So that's a little bit about what NC3 does. NC3 is a nonprofit organization. Our board of directors is made up of college presidents and industry leaders such as SnapOn, Train, Starrett Corporation. As part of, so when we talk about the skilled workforce, also I want to touch on this, is as we sit here today, and I know somebody mentioned this morning about that tipping point where the millennials are coming into the workplace, but the important piece is that as we sit here today is 10,000 people are retiring every day. Okay, us baby boomers we're not just thinking about retiring, we are retiring. And that'll continue for the next 17 years. Now, from an industry standpoint, we can all kind of understand that. But every one of us in here are pretty much our educators, right? That's happening within our schools as well, too. So where do we find the next John Lee and the next Matt Janisin and the college president and the deans of instructions that also need to be engaged with technology and how this is? So there's also that piece there that we've got to work on, and that's another part that NC3 collaborates with several organizations, from the Kansas Board of Regents to TCAT. We have relationships with the Federal Aviation Administration at the highest levels on how we address things within aviation and the aerospace industry, and so forth. So it's all part of how we drive NC3 and making it part of our system. Kind of the next big piece is I'll show you a map of the country here in a minute of all of our certification centers, but we also have out of that 38 leading institutions that also help drive. So we have our board that helps drive and provide direction, but then that next level of really driving implementation and really driving that standpoint of how do we integrate things, how do we move them, and bringing that input in. So we have 38 leading membership schools that engage in that are beacons for us out there, work with our industry partners. I'll be happy to also take this opportunity. I don't think Tom Snyder's in the room, but Ivy Tech is one of our newest members that have joined NC3 and is going to be working with us along with our other member schools across the country. Of course, TCAT and Washburn Tech that is here today, and John Richmond's group up in North Dakota State is all part of that leadership and that collaboration that they bring. So, I'll talk a little bit about North Dakota, where a big ag, a lot of hydraulics, manufacturing, those areas that provide some feedback in some new areas of certifications that we're in the process of developing in bringing those additional certifications into the marketplace. Fredrick touched a little bit about national advocacy. So when we talk about certifications, and majority of us here being community college, okay, but what about that high school? We heard a little bit about that this morning in the middle school areas. So some of the things that we're starting to do is not only look at how we reach down in the middle school students, but what about that math teacher, that science teacher, that English teacher that actually sees those students more than the counselors do through that important period, okay? How do we engage them and help them understand how math connects to the career and technical education world, how precision measurement, how all those pieces come together. So those are some things that NC3 and its corporate partners likewise are also starting to engage in that process as well too.
Can I interrupt?
Sure,
just a second?
absolutely.
So I heard somebody mention earlier this morning that they had fourth graders tour their plant, and what was that? Was that Cummins, I think? Right?
Yes.
So not too long ago, we had a group of third graders visit tour SnapOn. Third graders, 100, and we had a lot of staff. We didn't know what's going to happen when you have 100 third graders visiting your facility. And we had more fun with that than I think. The staff were just laughing like crazy because you point and you got 100 third graders. They're so into what you're doing, and it's really surprising what they do know and what they don't know. So we hear from. We're doing pilots in sixth grade with electricity training and precision measurement, doing some pilots to see, because elementary teachers are telling us that uniformly measurement from kindergarten teacher all the way to the eighth grade teacher, that's the first thing that they're telling us, is students don't know how to measure anything. They don't know what a ruler is. They don't know how many 30 seconds there are in an inch. It's so there's some unique things that we're experiencing as we do more surveying of what's needed out there. So we're looking to early age, okay, and we've heard it from other manufacturers this morning, and SnapOn saying the same thing. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Yep, and I also just want to touch a little bit on centers of excellence, and we're going to pull up a slide here, but I touched on it a little bit. But working with both SnapOn, Train, Starrett is putting in centers of excellence that really also help drive this big picture. And one of the things that we're working with Train Corporation is building automation control systems. Okay, so in short, for decades we had a little thermostat on there that we could actually physically move, and that actually was physically attached to something and would send the signal, and we could control things, right? But the reality is it's highly inefficient. And so think of a room like this right now. We're probably in this room maybe 25% full. So that kind of technology now can control this room and know roughly how many people are in here. But let's say in another hour, this room is completely full. In the past, you'd have to have somebody from maintenance come in and try and regulate that and get to that, to where now a building automation system control system will recognize that this room is full, or it could be programmed for that, and would start to adjust the temperature, whether it's middle of August or middle of December, and these things, and becomes very energy efficient. So the reason I mentioned that, now the technician that's going to be working on that, the building maintenance manager, not only has to have some HVAC understanding, but electronic systems, some IT-related activities in there, and how it works with a whole bunch of other systems as well. So again, where do we get that? And how does it? Well, it's got to come from the instructor, right? We got to have that within a school. So how do we create these centers of excellence and start to drive that big picture process? Because these are the things that are going to be coming for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So I just wanted to touch on that. Fredrick, if you want to take a few minutes also a little bit maybe on a broader picture of SnapOn. I think most people probably think of SnapOn as a shiny tool in the white truck, but SnapOn is engaged in a lot of different technologies across a lot of industries. And you take a few minutes just to touch on that.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, we have 4,500 franchisees around the world. We're a global company with multiple brands around the world. Some of those brands are only sold in those continents in which they're made. So we have Asian brands, European brands. I will tell you that our philosophy is we make our tools where we sell them. Okay, so that the SnapOn brand is our lead brand in the United States. That brand is manufactured in the United States. In fact, there's one of our largest plants is in Elizabethton, Tennessee, and right down the street from John Lee's and Dean Belvin's school. So we also we have about 11,000 employees across the globe, and we are the only tool supplier to NASA. We are the brand exclusive brand, the U.S. Air Force. We are the largest supplier of tools to the United States government. Our tools are 75% of the world's aircraft are repaired with our tools. This is a brand that goes beyond just the automobile, and our interest in all these things you see on the board, HVAC, is our tools are used there, our equipment and our technology. We don't make wrenches. We started making wrenches 95 years ago, but now we lead the world in the diagnostic tools that hook up to the modern automobile, and we have so we have to continue to innovate, and so Starrett is a partner of ours, and along with many other companies we collaborate with, So we to stay in business, we continue to have to innovate, right? And so every industry has to do that. And this being here, partnering with education and helping training and raising the skill level of instructors and attracting more and better students to school, we consider that innovation as well. So it's not just in the design facility, but also in our relationships in education. So it just flashed up a map of our certification centers around the United States. So in 2007, we started with one in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We now have over 315 institutions across the country in a matter of, a relatively short period of time. We've onboarded 27 new institutions since the first of the year. So it's like a little tsunami hitting us, and that's why these Train joined and Starrett joined, and others to be announced shortly will be coming on board, being part of this too. It will be very exciting. And so, you guys have anything else to say about the yellow and blue dots?
Yeah, those we're going to get it. We'll drill into this a little bit. I wanted to just kind of give you that perspective of where we're at, and as Fredrick mentioned, we are growing. But okay, what does this mean? What is certifications? We heard that word used a lot across the country. And what does that mean at the end of the day for your school, for your instructors, for administration, for leadership? Most importantly, what does it mean to that student when they go out to the workplace? So with that, I want to introduce Matt Janisin, because at the end of the day, it comes down to the school and what happens in that classroom, and how the instructor interacts with the technology that is being utilized in the industry today, where it's going, where it's coming through, and then how does that process to the student? Do they actually have something that they can say, this is what I know, this is what I learned at TCAT, or this is what I learned at North Dakota State, but also this is what I can do, Mr. Employer. I am able to do this, I can do this, and I've got a credential and a certification that validates that I'm able to do that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt and let Matt kind of bring you into the classroom and how this works.
You got a good feeling for the big ideas, big idea visionary guys. I'm the Monday morning. Now it's got to get to the students. What does that look like? As an instructor, if my college president or dean comes to me and says, we have this NC3 certification, there's this curriculum, okay, it's more for me to do. What now? How's this going to help make my life easier, make my students more employable? How's this work? So the reality is it's worked very well, and it's actually, when implemented properly, it helps gain a lot of efficiencies in the curriculum you're probably already teaching. So obviously my background is more automotive, transportation related. SnapOn's big into that industry. So how can they help us, ease what we're already teaching? So some of the areas that we've dove into using their expertise and knowledge that we never had as instructors, because there's times that we don't know either. So when you look at the areas of multimeter or torque or diagnostics, we were teaching all of those tools and techniques and platforms before. I mean, we have to burn NATEF and ASE standards and state curriculums and everything, but maybe we were doing a good job, maybe we weren't. We didn't really have the in-depth knowledge because we never had that industry tie, and that's really what NC3 was able to provide us, that access to qualified engineers at the corporate level, training master teachers who can then pass that on to more teachers who can then pass that on to students. So now we have curriculum with a company's name on it, whether it be SnapOn, Train, or Starrett, that we can put into our already programmed curriculum, where we're doing a better job teaching skills that we were already teaching before, but again, maybe not doing it as efficiently. And now at the outcome of it, we have a third-party credential from an outside body, an expert in the field, again, whether it be a SnapOn, Train, or Starrett, signifying that as an instructor, we've delivered it properly. The students have now shown competence through an online exam that is hosted by NC3, but yet the exams are industry-based, written in conjunction with industry experts that will verify what the students know and can do at the end of that unit. And it could be something small, like how to use a multimeter. It could be something larger and using, an automotive diagnostic piece of equipment. But ultimately, it provides relevance and some verification for what I'm teaching as an instructor in the classroom. I get the curriculum directly from the industry, so it's a little less for me to do. We have a train the trainer system set up to where I can go and learn how to do it technically, but also how to deliver it to the students in the classroom. So I'm getting the professional development I need as an instructor. And then ultimately my student goes out to the interview and I want him or her to be employed. They now have something that they can put on their resume as a bullet point or in their portfolio with a certificate from a recognized industry partner that in that industry, whether it's automotive and SnapOn or HVAC and Train, that gives them a talking point in an interview. A lot of my students get a little bit nervous. I think we all do in interviews like that. And sometimes if they're not texting, that interpersonal communication directly can be a little intimidating for them also. Well, the employers may or may not even know about the certifications that NC3 are doing. It's growing, it's still relatively new, but they do recognize that industry name, and that's really the key part. So when an employer is flipping through that portfolio or looking through that resume and they see a SnapOn certification on a piece of diagnostic equipment or a building automation certification from Train, they're going to ask about that, because they recognize the name, but they might not actually recognize it in this context. But that instantly prompts the student to be able to talk about what they learned, what they were able to do in class, what they accomplished. They can start to explain how they used the multimeter to diagnose a circuit or to use the torque wrench to properly fasten a fastener that was thought to be done properly in the past, but isn't always done accurately when you're properly trained to know all the variables that go into it, or how we diagnosed a very complex situation using a complex diagnostic tool. So it really helps the student, again, to take some ownership of the skills and knowledge that they've learned, as well as be able to communicate that to an employer, in an interview setting or at any situation like that.
And I'll just add, because a lot of people, when we talk to schools, and they want to know what's the cost and things like that. And so the test site is free to the students and to the instructors. That's underwritten by the industry partners, okay, and the membership and the members. The curriculum development is done. The industry underwrites that as well. So there's no charge to the schools for the test site, no charge to school for curriculum. Software updates for the technology. If the schools are trained, equipped, and delivering certifications, we at SnapOn give the software to the schools free every year. And so there is tremendous cost savings for schools, because if they had to do all this stuff themselves, it would be expensive. Plus, in the case of TCAT, for example, James King and his staff, they have contact with us. We've established relationships, and we communicate. We work collaboratively on what's next. So access to industry is also a part of this thing. So just wanted to share with you that these industry partners are stepping up financially because we know this works, and so I was fortunate enough to be part of the company the first company to step up and put some money behind this thing and show other industry that they can do the same thing as well and work collaboratively with education.
Let me also talk a little bit now. You see up on there we have key certifications: meter, torque, and precision measurement. So if we're thinking within automobiles, those certifications fit. But what I want you to do is think about in your programs. So sometimes, when we do something in one area, we go, well, that's just for that area. And then we have the precision measure, the pre-engineering program over here going, what about us? What about my students? Or you have the diesel guy or the manufacturing person. So part of also what we started to look at and work with our industry partners is when you think about multimeter, that is used in pre-engineering programs, right? It's used in electrical programs. It's used in automotive and diesel energy programs, aviation, manufacturing. You can go on where that skill set. So part of our certifications also are across our broad base, cutting across multiple industries and multiple programs. Same thing with torque. Now, if we think about torque in the automotive industry or the manufacturing industry, we had a long history here of tights tight and two tights broken, right? Okay. But now today with advanced materials, especially within, we think about the new Boeing 787 Dreamliner, that is primarily composite materials. Okay. Yesterday when I was driving up from Chicago on Interstate 65, there's a lot of wind turbines, okay, which are across the country. Okay. That big center head on that piece is made out of cast iron typically, but those blades are all out of composites. Okay, so now, understanding how those two metals and composites come together, and the importance that tights tight and two tights broken is going to cost about $250,000 for the blade, plus about $50,000 a day while the things are shut down and all that. Okay, helping and working with instructors on how that torque component fits into that engineering process and to that process across the board. What about healthcare? I was doing the same presentation about 2 years ago when we were just launching this, and there was some healthcare people in the room. And a lady stood up and she said, you haven't mentioned healthcare about torque. And I said, well, no. And she said, one of our biggest challenges is when we do surgeries and we put the little titanium screws in your shoulders and your elbows and your knees. She said, sometimes we don't necessarily tighten those things correctly. And she said, a lot of times we have to come back and figure out what we did. And so she said, this is important across understanding that engineering principle. The other part is to think, when we talked and heard from the two gentlemen this morning from Cummins about team concept and communications and problem solving. So one of the biggest things that are also going on out there is your second tier, your third tier programs, your engineering staff and your manufacturing are now being asked to communicate a lot more. So understanding just the engineering side of, say, using torque as an example of what a wet lube is and versus a dry lube, and when it's supposed to be torqued and how it's supposed to be torqued, whether it should be torqued at ambient temperature, and if you check it at a higher temperature or lower temperature, what you're going to actually be reading. So this is a blending of engineering and technicians and manufacturing processes that is already here today. It exists globally. And these are things that within Brian Albrecht and I were over in China, we're in Korea. All these things are happening, and the global workforce, everyone is working on this blending and bringing these skill sets together. So that's another part that we're working on. Just moving forward, I'm going to kind of have a conversation a little bit with Matt and Fredrick here as our slides go. But this is a little bit about NC3 in action, about bringing instructors together, and I just want to touch on. So if you're in a program now that you're going, boy, I'm trying to figure out how to make some changes in the facility, or I need to update some things, or I need to do some things with my instructors, or I got a new dean of technology, and how we're going to go through a series of pictures so we can talk about programs that we are working with, that they are completely rolling up the dumpsters and cleaning things out and repainting and restarting, to programs that are just becoming part of the process and we're bringing them into the network. So, I think with this one here, I would ask Matt just to kind of talk a little bit about this slide of this is our train the trainer a little bit in action. What happens?
So one premise that we really kind of knew from the beginning is no matter what technical skill that you're trying to convey to the students, it's not going to happen unless the instructor, him or herself, is extremely comfortable and competent in that skill in order to teach it. So just giving curriculum, just having pricing breaks on equipment or whatever, doesn't get the complete job done. You really need to go that one extra step and make sure that the instructor, again, is very comfortable and confident in delivering that curriculum. So a train the trainer model was put in place where all the instructors from prospective certification schools that want to deliver these certifications will come to a center of excellence, learn not just the technical skills based on the certification, but also some of the delivery skills on how to teach it to the students, because in the train the trainer, they essentially are delivered the curriculum as they would deliver it, so they get to see a model. In addition to, they get to experience it as a student. And I think that's always good for an instructor to do from now and then, to sit on the other side of the table and kind of experience that overwhelming feeling of a lot of information coming at you in a short amount of time, and the expectations of the exam and everything. It's the same for the students. The exams are the same. So we put the instructors through the same paces that they will then have to go and do with their students. Aside from that, getting them out of their home school and to different areas of the country and different schools gives them that a new vision or new ideas that they might be able to see and take away from the other schools that they're at. So what started out as I say Gateway in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we've brought a lot of schools through and they've toured. And like we wanted them to do, they learned from our mistakes and they would go back and they would do better. And now, since we've gone to other schools, they stole from me in the beginning. Now it was my turn to pay them back. So, we're continuously trying to improve our facilities too. Our college president understands that you can't let things go to the point of breaking. You need to make sure you have a good maintenance and facility schedule to maintain this ever-changing technology. So we're in the middle of about a $500,000 renovation right now, just kind of updating and tweaking our program. And a lot of those new ideas that we're bringing into the program are now ideas that these, first 30 or so schools that have come, visited Gateway, went back, redid their facilities. Throughout the last, 7 years or so, I've now visited their new facilities, and now I'm stealing all those good ideas and bringing them back to Gateway. So that way we can keep raising the bar as a whole for over the overall industry and education together.
Yeah, so it's interesting. we know some of you out there, and as many of you we don't know, but hands of the numbers of people who have been to Kenosha for an education tour. So we have probably half a dozen or so representing about 4 different colleges here. If you really want, we can tell you, and we can show you pictures, we can explain this thing, and we can bring great instructors up for you to hear the story. But all of you who have been to Kenosha, when you see it, that's when it sinks in. All right, I think we're all the same. Just like I can't be an advisor to your school unless I come and see your program as well. I don't know what you have, right? So we probably bring through tours of Gateway and the SnapOn headquarters. Probably 4 colleges a month come through for tours. So I invite any of you, all of you, to come and visit. And usually what happens is that you come in, we'll go out to dinner, we'll have some nice conversation, bring some of your staff. And the next day we will tour all of Gateway's centers of excellence, in which many of these certifications are delivered, and also come to the SnapOn World headquarters and see our 15,000 square foot innovation center. So it's, in my opinion, it may be one of the best benchmarking tours available for educators in the country. So again, I invite you, and I will host your visit. So,
and I'd add to that, and those sites are growing too as well. I know we have Washburn Tech that is here. I don't know how many Clark is sending through, but there's tours that Washburn is doing. I know John Lee, you're doing some now in Tennessee. We have Lynn Benton out in the West Coast, so there's multiples, and you'll see some more pictures as we go through that. But with the time we have, the other thing I wanted to touch a little bit is on these certifications that students are getting and going out into the workplace with. And so you can see when we first, Fredrick mentioned in 2007, we kind of got together and started to put some thoughts and ideas and work some pieces together. In 2009, we really launched this with our core schools, and then every year we've been basically doubling that. We have a little over 700 instructors that have gone through the trainer that are now engaged and starting to deliver these out into the marketplace. There we go.
And I'll just say that, so the numbers are, I said we added 27 new schools just this year. You saw we're at 15,500 last year certifications delivered. We're year to date, we're a 73% increase over last year. So I think in 5 years we'll be delivering 100,000 certifications across the United States.
So again, just some pictures. This is some of the pictures from Horizon Center that you've seen. Here's West Mech out in Phoenix, Arizona. That 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the recession was hitting, right, and things were going, and so West Mech at the same time was just starting to try and get going, and so we helped them with a small program. But in a way, the recession kind of helped them, because there was a couple of buildings that became available, some right on an airport, to where the building was bought, but it was designed for industry and commercial. But if you look at that picture there, where they refabbed that, worked with not only NC3, but we took Greg Donovan and his team. They came to Gateway. They've been to several other programs around the country that we had them benchmark. And then they brought the architects in. This, I think, the other part I was going to add to what Fredrick mentioned is it's not just, I know when James King came the first time, but then there was other people that you brought in. And same thing with Clark Coco. He brought his Chamber of Commerce person. The Board of Regents came, the architect came, the facilities person came, and they all kind of looked at this and said, oh, okay, this is where we need to get. We thought we were here, we're really here, and here are the steps. And we shrank some of those timelines from what they thought was going to be a 3-year process down to 18 months. Some cases, When we did the Washburn Tech piece, I think Clark was originally thinking 2.5 years. I think it was 8 months when we got done, and we put it into place. Students were in the facility, and they were operating. Okay, so that's WestMech. Here's Miramar College out in San Diego. So if you look down in the right-hand corner, you probably don't see too many diesel facilities with a glass wall in them. But then again, that's part of schools and the community being able to see what goes on there in the high tech, and that it's not dirty and greasy, that this is part of compressed natural gas, and this is the future of technology. And so that also is part that we like to touch on. That's Lynn Benton out in Oregon. That is part of it as well. Washburn, that we just talked about. And let's see here. Wichita Area Technical College in Wichita, Kansas is a big partner with us on as we start to really drive in the aerospace aviation area, not only in A&P but in manufacturing. I think we now have about 12 programs that have big, huge aviation programs. So this is a part as we launch the precision measurement, that'll also come into that aviation, and we're going to be doing a lot more pieces in aviation. And we have an MOU with the Federal Aviation Administration to begin to work on skill development, not only for instructors, but for students and so forth. So there's a lot of things that'll be happening in the next 3 years in that area. North Dakota State, when we think about diesel technology and ag, again, it's not dirty and greasy. It's very bright and engaged, and there's a lot of technology that is involved in that.
So so you see a kind of a similar look here and a feel, and clean and bright, and so when you come and tour, you'll see that, and so schools are implementing these things. But we actually help with this process. Train Corporation, SnapOn Corporation, we have designers on the staff. So if you have a facility that needs remodeling, or you're building a new building, and we've helped many schools with the process from even before they even hired the architect, And so we can come in, and we know what an education environment, how much kind of space you need. We work with colleges across the country to help them figure out what those spaces should look like. So that's part of the benefits that industry is bringing to the table to help education and facilities get up faster and cost less to put together. We think we save you time and money. Good.
Some of the other organizational partnerships that we are working directly with and are part of our organization, as you can see up there. Touch a little bit with our time remaining, a little bit about, okay, what's next? What else is coming? I touched on this a little bit earlier about train to trainer. So we started with one train to trainer session in Kenosha. We now do those basically every quarter throughout the year and spread across the country. So we just finished up one in Tennessee. The next one will be in July. We'll be out in Lynn Benton on the West Coast in the fall, and then Phoenix in January. We have many new certifications coming. The exam site that Fredrick and Matt talked about is up 24/7, 365 days a year. The windows are open. That when you are ready to test your students and you want to engage, whether you want to if you want to do it during the classroom, or if you want classroom hours, if you want to do a special session, that test site is up and running constantly for you. So there's no testing windows, and those pieces are again all available for you. Why does this work? First piece up there is we do not do white papers. Okay. Any subject that we talked about today, if you want a white paper on it, all you got to do is Google it. You'll probably come up with 10,000 of them. I agree with all of them. Okay. We roll up our sleeves. We implement, regardless of where you're at, where your starting point. Let's focus on working together, shortening those cycles, collaborating, getting those mentoring activities. We have some of our instructors here today, John Lee and so forth are here, and that's what it's about, is getting it done and working. There's always 100 questions. I always tell everybody, today I'll be happy if I can answer 20% of them. Okay? Tomorrow those questions are going to change, and we got to get ready for the new ones. So we keep focusing on how we drive that process. Okay, industry is deeply involved. They are part of this process. We all know that we are in a global marketplace. Our skill sets in the American workforce is key. They are up to the challenge. How do we bring that to the table and bring that forward? Turnkey systems. The curriculum, again, our instructors are involved in that process, working with industry as we update those pieces, the websites and so forth. So it is a very collaborative effort. I'm going to kind of end there and turn it back over to Matt, maybe for some closing comments, and then we'll finish up with Fredrick.
I'm good.
I'm pretty good too.
Okay.
Questions?
Well, good. Yeah, questions. Yes. Yeah.
What type of certifications do you have for manufacturing?
Well, in manufacturing right now, when you think about we have torque and the multimeter, the precision measurement pieces that are in there. We also are going to be doing some things in process control that we are in the process of starting to work with a couple corporations on that we'll probably be announcing that in 2016. And then one of the things I know with North Dakota State, we're also starting to look at some things on pneumatics and hydraulics. And again, so part of the question that you just asked is very good, is that not all these certifications just necessarily start from industry. Sometimes they start with our school partners that come and say, here's what we're seeing, here's some things that we're seeing at the local level. Can we find an industry partner to help us grow this on a national level? So those are the things that we also work on. Okay.
So we started in 2007 with one certification, right? Matt, I don't know, the Gateway delivers 32 different certifications now through the NC3. We're adding another 13 certifications this year. So this is a very dynamic program that if you look at it today and don't look at it for 2 years,
drastically will change.
There's going to be a lot of changes. So it moves very quickly.
Sandra?
Excuse me. ATA has regional conferences, and I'm just communicating with Brian Over at Michigan today, and there will be one in Kenosha, October 26th to 27th, on the agenda, and that will be announced tomorrow, and we have
Great. Yep. And Sandra, thank you. And like you, I've been sending emails back and forth to Brian this morning. So we will be, so we'll be participating and supporting ATA in that and helping drive that big picture. So thank you. Any other question back there? Yes.
Yeah, based on what President Snyder said this morning about us becoming better listeners, Fredrick, what skill sets are you looking for the employees that you want to hire? I'm talking about technological skills, not the soft skills.
Well, it surprised me. When I thought that it would be the technical skills, right? We're obviously doing a lot of technical skills certifications, but if you survey the people who run our plants, they'll tell you it's communication, working as a team, being on time. Our employees stay forever. I mean, our average employees probably been there 30 years, right? And they got to keep their head in the game. You know, this is we're trying to we're trying to make money. You know, and so but at the same time, the technical skills are highly important too, because we have a lot of machinery. It's not the labor of the past, you know. It's the labor of the future. It's what we call advanced skills is what we need in workforce. You know, we can't compete with low cost assembly and things like that. You know, globally, but we can compete when it comes to high level skills. You know, people with machining skills and technical equipment skills.
Okay, I think, Sandra, I think we're right at our time, but maybe there's one last question. If not, we should be good.
I want to thank you on behalf of ATA. Excellent.
Great, thank you. And I've got a few brochures up here on NC3 if anybody should want one, and we've got our business cards as well too. So.